great day for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Welcome in and welcome to disappointment. My name is Derek Monti. Of course, I am your mayor of PHNX once again. This guy next to me, he's still Mr. Electric. It's just that electricity isn't really flowing tonight. Yeah, actually, it is flowing, and it's aimed right at Nick Ahmed. But
no, I'm president of the Nick Ahmed fan club.
There he is. It's Shawn.
I will not tolerate any slander of Nick Ahmed today.
He's broken once again, and of
I have a
course,
feeling that's not.
That's not.
I swear to God, if someone says a bad thing about Nick Ahmed, I'll fight. Nick Ahmed's my guy.
Oh, we're going to say a lot of bad things about Nick Ahmed. And that's my vice mayor. It's Jesse. He's the thunderstick. It's Jesse Friedman. Jesse, Brandon Pfaadt, not very good tonight for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Not very good. No, and Torrey had a pretty quick hook in this game as well.
Yeah.
Pfaadt had 70 pitches, I believe, when he was removed from the game.
He did.
2 outs in the fourth inning. Ryan McMahon, a left-handed hitter, was coming up, and Joe Mantiply was the first man out of the bullpen for Torrey, and Torrey, I guess, liked that matchup, left on left, and decided to go get Pfaadt with 70 pitches. And I have to believe that's a decision that Torrey would have been less inclined to make a few weeks ago. Now that we're at this point in the year when it's really crunch time, it's really, these aren't playoff games exactly, but they are nearing that level of importance where you really have to make sure matchups are in your favor as much as they possibly can be. And, Torrey did that, and the bullpen was fantastic tonight, but the offense was not.
And you are absolutely right about that. Really, when it came down to it, Brandon Pfaadt was looking, frankly, uncompetitive at times. He just, his pitches weren't in the zone. They weren't close to the zone. And then when he would come back to the zone. He threw a decent number
of strikes. He was just throwing a lot of, middle pitches that were getting way too much of the zone.
Well, and it was such an overcorrection because it didn't seem like he could go from being outside of the zone to coming back and touching the edges, hitting those corners and things like that.
Yeah.
His overcorrection came right down to throwing a ball right down the middle. And Jesse said it, but and he probably is going to get mad at me for saying this, but he's just lucky that the Rockies hitters were so bad tonight, essentially, right? Because if they were more dialed in, they would have been
the Dodgers. This is a very ugly game.
This is
bad.
Very ugly game.
Very bad. I mean, it's interesting because Torrey pulling Pfaadt that early is like, at this point, I don't know what to make of it because I feel like, kind of like Jesse alluded to, you probably wouldn't have seen that earlier in the year, but there's been so many instances with him where it's like you want him to leave a reliever that's been dealing in a little bit longer, or he leaves someone in too long and you're like, Torrey, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
so anytime he makes any decision, I'm like, I don't know.
Is this too early?
Is it too early? Is it too late? And I mean, ultimately, it ended up being the right decision.
You're absolutely right.
Amazing.
You're absolutely right. The bullpen gave up one hit, I believe, after that point. Correct. And so
it was,
they were good.
It was really incredible.
I mean, credit to Torrey, because I think one of my biggest concerns about Torrey as a manager was what would happen once we got to the postseason. Is he going to pull the trigger, or is he going to pull the hook on a pitcher quick enough, or is he going to trust his guys? And I think you're seeing now that he might trust some of his guys, but the guys that have earned his trust, right? Like he's not pulling Gallen or Merrill in this situation probably, but Pfaadt has not earned that trust. And it's nice to know that he's not treating all of these guys like equals, because they're not all equals. And it gets the postseason, whoever that third pitcher is probably is going to need to have a much shorter leash than the other two guys. So I like to see that Torrey seems to kind of be, He's starting to manage with his mind on the postseason, whether that's getting the team ready to get there or starting to manage the way he would in the postseason.
Well, it's interesting you say that because he talked about, and he said this quite a bit, that he is asking more of guys. He's going to ask more of guys, right? But like you said, this is a decision that he just doesn't make a few weeks ago because now we don't have the time for error. And honestly, the bullpen, we give them a lot of grief, and honestly, they deserve it, but they also deserve praise because tonight the bullpen was outstanding.
The bullpen
so Torrey
only does this at times when they don't need to.
They
only has these outings when they don't get any offensive support. If the offense is good, then they're going to give up 5 runs.
Yeah,
it happens every time.
And you're right, because the offense absolutely struggled tonight, and the Diamondbacks just couldn't get that big hit at times. I mean, I don't even know if it's that big hit. It felt like at times they were absolutely befuddled by Kyle Freeland and the Rockies, and it just felt like they couldn't really do much. This is another one of those nights where it felt like this starting lineup made the starting pitcher on the opposition look like an absolute ace when he's not really that. He just
Kyle Freeland, I mean, especially the last couple of months. I think I heard on the radio Kyle Freeland's 1-10 in his last 17 starts with an ERA over 6, something like that. he's, at one point, I do think Kyle Freeland was a pretty good pitcher and pretty underrated pitching in that ballpark. But Kyle Freeland is not one of the better starters in the National League at this stage in his career. And yes, he only had, I think it was 2 strikeouts, but the D-backs didn't make that much hard contact in this game. There were definitely some balls that, were maybe hard hit right at guys. I know someone mentioned that in the chat. But the D-backs XBA in this game as a whole was 223. Their expected batting average was 223. They had 6 hits, which is pretty much what they were expected to get. I don't think they were super unlucky in this game. I just think, Matt Cook is going out there. He's not really striking guys out, but he's getting these lazy pop flies, and that was kind of the story for a good portion of this game for this offense.
Yeah. D-backs were 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position.
That too.
And some of the older veteran guys just haven't been effective for this team. Evan Longoria is 4 for 25 with 10 strikeouts.
Remember when his OPS
since returning from the
3,000?
Yeah. Remember when you wanted to DFA him on opening day, but then you didn't but then you no, we're not. Okay.
I've always been a big Longo fan.
Nick Ahmed, 0 for 3 tonight with a strikeout. And I know that there's a lot of, if people wanted to complain about this starting lineup, I will be right there with you, because I really didn't understand what was happening at times. And considering we were hanging out with our wonderful diehards out there in section 144. Couldn't see a lot of what was going on the scoreboard behind us or the lineup card. So at times I was like finding myself sitting there pulling up game day being like, wait, Tommy Pham is hitting third? What is happening? It was
definitely a little odd.
There's just a lot of things.
I was talking to some of the diehards. Like, I don't necessarily mind the idea of having like Corbin and Gabby near the end of the lineup. Like, they not necessarily those two, but like having a little bit of firepower near the end of the lineup.
They were what, 8 and 9 tonight, right? Or were they 7 and 9? And then what? Nick Ahmed was
the problem,
number
right?
8 there.
Like, it doesn't matter when you throw Nick Ahmed in between there, which, like, as everyone in the chat is saying, he's just not a very good baseball player at this point. He doesn't contribute anything offensively and really defensively. He just doesn't. He doesn't contribute, man. So like it almost doesn't matter where, like, you could, as far as the order is concerned, you could throw anybody out there, but any momentum you get is going to get killed by Nick Ahmed or by Jace Peterson or by whichever or by at this point Evan Longoria or Pavin Smith or insert anybody. Like, at this point the lineup is just not good. They're not a very good offensive team, and we talked about it about a month ago at this point. Like, you look at the lineup and it's just like, that's not striking fear into the hearts of any pitching staff in all of baseball.
At least from top to bottom, for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely points of it. Like, when you get to the lineup, like, that's part of why I like the end of the lineup there, because when you get to the end of the lineup and it's like you have Corbin Carroll and Gavin Reno, and then you flip the lineup to Ketel Marte and Tommy Pham, whatever, I guess, and like,
I think Pham was third. Emmanuel Rivera started in the 2 hole.
That was part of it too. Like, that was
Torrey did the same thing with Buddy Kennedy, right? Hitting him second. Kyle Lewis has hit second a lot. I've asked Torrey about this, and he basically explains it as that 2 hole is going to be a spot in the lineup where they have the platoon advantage. So, although I don't know if did Emmanuel Rivera face a righty in this game, I think he might have. Sure. But generally, the way that they operate with that spot is, once the lefty comes out of the game, then you'll pinch it. You'll make sure you always have. They
brought in Perdomo for him.
Okay. Yeah, I missed that. So yeah, that's Torrey's justification for doing that. But going back to the offense as a whole, if you go back to July 1st, so July 1st until now, this is a little bit over 2 months of baseball now. The Diamondbacks are 25th in the league in WRC plus, 89, 100 being league average. That's pretty bad. I mean, the only teams below them, interestingly enough, there's a couple teams that are in the wild card race with. The Cincinnati Reds are just below them. The Pirates, the White Sox, these Rockies, and the San Francisco Giants, who have really struggled to hit over the last couple months. That's not great company. The D-backs have been a bottom 6 offense in the sport for about 2 months now. Yeah. And that's also the same 2 months where their season is turned around in an enormous way, right? It dates back to pretty much the beginning of July when the massive skid started. So a lot of it has to do with the offense. And, they were scoring over 5 runs a game consistently early in the season. We haven't really seen that for a pretty good while at this point.
Nicholas Gruters in the chat said, and why are we batting Pham third every night? He's a career bottom 4 of the lineup hitter. Pham has been fine, but I mean, there's something
He
to be.
hasn't been great though.
He hasn't been
great. Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that because there's a lot of players that the Diamondbacks either acquired at the trade deadline or were recent additions due to being picked up after being DFA'd by other teams that all of a sudden are like, you know, the Diamondbacks are counting on these guys more than guys that have been on their team. Like Ryan Thompson was a guy that Torrey said the other day was one of his high leverage bullpen arms, and he just got here. Right? So
just called up from Reno.
like there is something to be said about how like these guys are impacting the lineup now. And the fact that Torrey is looking for answers at times when it comes to who he can rely on in those high leverage situations and who he can rely on for some offense to generate some offense. Tommy Pham had a real nice hitting streak going on there. So him hitting third made sense. But like you said, he just hasn't been great. It's just more of a
fucking intern Dom in here, just Cincinnati boy saying Ellie De La Cruz. Go back to taking pictures, Ohio boy.
What are you even doing here, Dom? What are you even doing here? Okay,
Tommy,
go back to Ohio.
I'm not going to put up with Dom being in here talking
boy,
trash. Don't you dare,
photo boy.
Yeah,
go take pictures, photo boy.
Go ahead, Justin.
What do you guys think Tommy Pham's OPS is since he was brought over in the trade?
742.
Okay, you guys said that at exact. So
I said 638.
742, 638.
Yeah.
656.
You went over.
Yeah, I did. Good job.
That's pretty rough, right? Like
That's
for a guy
rough.
that's hitting third every day, and you know, Lourdes hasn't really hit much in the second half of the season. Corbin went through his extended struggle. Now he's come out of that and has been really good lately. But yeah, I mean, frankly, it's hard to build a lineup when you've only got about 3 guys who are really hitting right now, right? It's Gabby, it's Christian Walker. Ketel Marte has really struggled the last month or so as well.
Corbin's been hitting.
And yeah, Corbin has, as I said, he's sort of come around at this point. So yeah, I mean the depth that this lineup had early in the season, it just hasn't been there. Those guys just aren't performing the same way they were earlier in the year.
Emmanuel Rivera had a 900 OPS at one point. So it's like when you ask where those contributions have gone, it's just guys that aren't able
that were overperforming.
They were overperforming.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was never realistic. But I mean, as we said during the dark times, that wasn't the reality of what they were either. But yeah, I mean, all I know is there's going to be 2 really pissed off fan bases, no matter who makes the playoffs out of these 3 teams, because at this point it kind of feels like 3 teams in the race for that third spot. Like, the other 2 fan bases are going to be pissed because they're going to look at the team that makes it and be like, they do not deserve to be there.
Well, it's got to be 4 teams, right? Giants, Marlins, Reds.
Oh,
D-backs.
yeah, the Marlins. My bad. I forgot
just
about them.
Nixon. I mean, the Giants are 2 games out. You're writing off the Giants at this point.
No, I forgot about the Marlins.
He was writing off the
Marlins. About the Marlins.
The Marlins are, yeah.
But still, there's going to be 3 fan bases that look around and be like, that team, how the fuck did they get there?
Yeah.
They don't deserve that shit. Because like if the D-backs make the playoffs, I'm not going to sit here and say they're a playoff team. Like they deserve to make the playoffs. It'll just be a war of attrition at that point.
So it's the reason why we shouldn't be mad if they don't make the playoffs because we've seen them perform against these teams. Now, Brent Strom today had a completely different attitude about that, which Brent Strom, I will run through a goddamn brick wall for Brent Strom. I'm just saying that right now. That man could get me because he's so like he's got this dry humor and he's so intelligent. He has so much experience, and he's like Jesse. He's very rational, right? Like he's just one of those guys that like he has no problem sometimes saying that one of their pitchers isn't good right now or what. Like he's very honest and he assesses the situation very well. And when he talked today about the fact that those teams that aren't wildcard teams, those teams that aren't going to be fighting for a playoff spot in the wildcard round, are going to sit around for like 5 days and then they're going to have to play. And he was like, we can get them. We can, we can beat them in a 5-game series.
I mean, you just said, can you imagine the pressure that a team like that could be under? A few
facing
balls.
us.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing for the
away.
Diamondbacks, and for honestly all of these, maybe the exception of the Giants. The Giants are just a little different, but like none of them will have anything to lose. Like whether it's the Reds, the Marlins, or the D-backs, they're all ahead of schedule. Like anybody that gets there, they're dangerous just because it's like. Fucking, there is no. Oh, is this guy gonna choke in the postseason again? Like, there's no reputation or anything there. There's nothing to lose.
And outside of the Giants, and I mean, you could even say this about the Giants, because they're a fairly young roster.
They're just a weird. They've been successful in general over the past
But I'm just talking about their roster right now. But
no,
I mean,
sure.
you look at the Reds, you look at the Diamondbacks, you look at the Marlins. These are all teams that essentially are young, exciting teams that are maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. And so, like you said, making it into the playoffs is just going to be a win for them. And
the problem is if they win a series, because if they win the wild card series, then I'm going to start thinking they can win the World Series, and then anything short of World Series is going to be disappointment. So either
Shawn will find a way to be disappointed inevitably.
I mean,
again,
if you don't win a World Series, I'm going to be disappointed ultimately.
But they still have to get there first. They have to get through all of this, and a big part not only is their offense struggling right now, but with the way Brandon Pfaadt performed today, there's a lot of question marks about their starting rotation. And today, again, speaking of Brent Strom, we did ask him, or he was asked about who would be potentially starting for the Diamondbacks in their open rotation spot right now. And while Brent Strom did not answer, he did say,
it appears that Ryne Nelson will start for the Diamondbacks on Thursday.
It was a funny thing because he basically said, like, who do you think? who like, what are our options? And then I believe it was Steve or somebody else said Ryne Nelson, and then he said, next question is what he said after that point, right? But he did talk about Ryne Nelson apparently making his way back, and that it does appear that Nelson will be part of the starting rotation again when he returns. And they just talked about the progress that he's made. They seem to be fairly, I guess, fairly approving of what he's done, and that they are excited to have him return to this rotation. But I don't know. I mean, again, with the Diamondbacks starting pitching woes, I mean, Ryne Nelson right now does look better than some of the options that they've kind of been going with, but you know, who knows? I mean, Slade still doesn't look like he is going to be a starting pitcher, at least for this, you know, for in the foreseeable future. So I don't know, but I know right now that they have a lot to figure out.
The thing that's frustrating to me is it feels like whoever they go with as that, whether it's the third guy in the playoffs or just filling that, like, it just kind of feels like it's they're playing the lottery. Like, there's two good pitchers, and then which one of the other guys is going to be good today? Who knows? Find out at 7 p.m. on Fox.
Yeah, well,
like who would you guys use?
Well, fuck. I mean, based on the last two starts, I feel like it's Zach Davies.
It's Zach Davies. It is Zach Davies. Well, right now it's Zach Davies.
No, I would be sick to my stomach if Zach Davies was the star. So, like, if based on recent performance, it's got to be Zach. But I feel like he's the one I'm the least comfortable with starting that third game.
The only reason why I take Zach over anybody else is also his experience.
Yeah,
I think there's something to be said in a high pressure situation that Davies could give up 3 runs but still get things back on track and give him another 3 innings.
Good about that. And
you know,
like, I think Torrey, for better or worse, that's up for you to decide, is more likely, like we were kind of saying, to let Zach Gallen figure things out than he is a Brandon Pfaadt. Whereas, so like, and obviously, if we're talking the playoffs, it's obviously a very different situation. Like, no one's getting that long of a leash regardless. But, like, you know, if you're probably more likely to take the load off the bullpen and keep rocking with Zach Davies than you are Brandon Pfaadt, because you probably have a better chance of Zach Davies, like, keeping you in the game, even if he's given up a few runs already.
Davies has made 3 career appearances in the postseason.
I feel like this isn't going to go well.
He threw 1 inning in 2018 in the NLCS with the Brewers, scoreless, didn't allow a run. 2020 with the Padres, he pitched in 2 games, 2 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs in his first outing, 5 innings, 9 hits, 4 runs in his second outing. He has a career 9 ERA in the postseason.
That sounds like Zach.
Yeah.
It's only 8 innings, but yeah,
it is what it is.
I mean, but like, literally, it's just a complete like crapshoot for that other guy at this point.
I'd rather have Brandon Pfaadt, and maybe he gains experience, because I think either get rocked. To be honest,
maybe, but I would rather Davies get rocked than Pfaadt get rocked, and then start this, because then if Pfaadt's good, it's going to start this he can't pitch in the playoffs narrative, where it's like, I don't give a shit if there's a narrative about Zach Davies. He's not really a part of the future, I don't think. So, like, I mean, I guess if he comes out in the postseason and just turns into Madison Bumgarner, and I mean good Madison, postseason Madison Bumgarner.
That's a bad metaphor.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're going with.
For the best World Series pitcher of all time, who somehow also manages to be the worst pitcher in D-backs history. Don't know how those two things can be true about the same person, but it is. But yeah, I genuinely don't know. I think I would rather Davies Pfaadt, and I think it might just be his face. How red it gets and how sweaty he gets. He just looks like a nervous dude. and I just don't. It wouldn't make me feel comfortable.
He does get those
he gets really red, rosy cheeks,
Minnesota
and I'm just like,
cold weather cheeks
I'm
going
like,
on,
God,
and then you're like, oh no, things are going
the
bad.
The man
here.
looks flustered.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
His highs were higher than Zach Davies' highs this year.
Yeah, that's
what
fine.
I'm saying, and it's the playoffs.
But also. Can we point out the fact that at a certain point the offense just does not show up for Brandon Pfaadt starts? It hasn't happened like a single time this year. I don't know if they fucking hate him or what, but they just don't show up. So if that's going to keep happening,
well, they don't show up in the starts where he doesn't give up a lot of runs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just like the bullpen.
They didn't show up today. It's not like he gave up 5 runs or anything.
Yeah, no. Today, definitely the lack of offense makes his outing look worse, right? But then, based on the way he was pitching. Even though he only gave up 3 runs, what we saw was what the coaching staff was 100%. Seeing. They were seeing him outside, and then dead middle. And then, again, it's not even like the outside pitches were competitive or he was just missing the edge. They were far outside.
Yeah, I think there's also a certain awareness that it's like, okay, we're down a run. This is the Rockies. The game might as well be tied. We should still be able to beat this team. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. And the offense still couldn't get anything mustered up. But
I mean, even yesterday, right? The Diamondbacks, I think they went down 15 in a row to finish yesterday's game.
Yeah,
they scored
those
4 runs early, and the offense was really quiet the rest of the way. And even that game they won on Friday against the Orioles, they scored 4 runs in that game.
Yeah.
The games that they're winning, they're scoring like 4 or 5 runs, which sometimes that'll get you a win if your pitching staff is good enough. But a lot of times it's not going to get you a win. This offense is struggling for not just Brandon Pfaadt. This offense is just struggling.
I am absolutely terrified of these 7 games we have against the Chicago Cubs with the offensive numbers the Cubs have been putting up lately. That's what terrifies me.
I'm terrified.
Because the Cubs, like starting pitching, their pitching doesn't even have to be good. For them to outscore the Diamondbacks with the way things are going for them lately. But
I'm terrified that we're going to end up having to play the Brewers in the playoffs somehow, because that will be the least entertaining set of 3 games of playoff baseball in the history of man.
But you know what matters there is that in that scenario, the Diamondbacks are in the playoffs.
And honestly,
that's all that matters.
Again, I mean, that was more from a generic baseball perspective, because that'll be boring baseball. But as a Diamondbacks fan, that is the team I want to see in the postseason if we're seeing somebody.
The Brewers?
Yeah, the Diamondbacks just absolutely need help when it comes to starting pitching. So hopefully Ryne Nelson, if he is being called up and is the answer, then hopefully he can return to that form that we've seen from him at times. Because again, when you talk about
pretty good on the road for a while there.
Yeah, guys having good outings and showing what their ceiling could be. Ryne Nelson has definitely showed that. But somebody who also showed what their ceiling could be tonight was Andrew Saalfrank, who made his major league debut and was very damn good for this team.
Got a standing O.
Got some boos from Torrey when he went to go take him out because people didn't want him to get taken out. But he went 1 2/3 innings, scoreless, hitless, no runs, no walks, struck out 2. What do you think, Jesse?
He's good. Hashtag analysis.
Hashtag quality analysis.
Andrew Saalfrank in AAA had a whiff rate of 55.2% on his curveball, which is really freaking impressive. For reference, Zach Gallen's curveball, I think, has a whiff rate of like 42%, something like that this year, which is among the leaders in the league. I don't expect Saalfrank to be able to maintain a 55% whiff rate in the majors, but that's some serious swing and miss there. I know, you see the fastball at 92, 93 miles an hour.
Yeah, it doesn't look super impressive.
Yeah, but that breaking pitch that he has, which registers as a slider, but he insists it's a curveball. He says curveballs are cooler, so he calls it a curveball, which I respect.
I respect the hell out of that.
That's awesome.
I respect the hell out of that.
I mean, because like curveballs kind of are cooler for relievers, right? Like how many like fastball slider guys are there in the league at this point? If you're fastball curveball, you're part of a kind of exclusive company.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he had a strikeout rate of 37.5% in AAA as well. So he was turning those whiffs on his breaking pitches into some serious strikeout numbers. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible that Andrew Saalfrank comes over here and is the Diamondbacks' best left-handed reliever the rest of the way. I mean, from what he showed in AA and AAA to extremely hitter-friendly environments, I think he'd given up 2 home runs all season long in more than 60 innings down there. It's really impressive stuff. And I believe he had reverse splits. So And that's not necessarily ideal. The D-backs still need a late inning weapon to get lefties out.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't quite fit that profile, but the D-backs just need productive relievers in general at this point, and
sure.
I think he has a chance to be that.
It was huge to get both him and Thompson to get like an inning and 2/3 out of each of them. Like to have Pfaadt get pulled as early as he did and only have to use 4 bullpen arms, like,
and also
massive.
to not have it be like really. I mean, obviously they lost, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I mean, there wasn't this sense of dread. There wasn't this sense that, oh man, here they're going to let it get completely out of control, so the Diamondbacks aren't gonna have a chance. No, these guys did the thing that we have actually seen very rarely from this team, and that's just kind of have a quiet outing, go out there, do their job, and sit batters down, and they did. They gave the Diamondbacks every opportunity they could to get back into this one, and the Diamondbacks couldn't muster up more than 2 runs. But I will say, going back to Andrew Saalfrank, the Todd Walsh interview with his family was absolutely outstanding. The broadcast kind of keeping an eye on them while he was out there pitching, like we had the
it was
TV,
every pitch.
we had the TV turned down pretty low in here, so we didn't exactly hear the broadcast crew and what they were talking about, but we knew this was the family. We knew this had to be the mom. And when Todd went over to interview them, it was just, I don't know, man. That's like it's my favorite thing. It's my
Todd's
favorite.
really good at it too.
He's so good at it, but it literally is my favorite things at times in sports, because we tend to sit back and think of these guys as larger than life. We tend to think of them as superheroes, comic book heroes, all that kind of stuff. We scream things at them from the crowd like this man does, crazy, wild things, like as if they're not human beings with feelings and ears. And still, there's just something that never gets old to me when it comes to these guys living their dream and making their major league debut. His mom talked about the fact that when he was 3 years old, he said he wanted to be a pro ball player. And like, here he is tonight living that dream, making that 3-year-old into, a literal psychic, and knowing that he was going to follow this path and make his debut tonight. But when Todd asked the last question, it was such a moment, because
he was asking for trouble.
He knew what he was doing. He knows what he was doing all the time. He's a pro. But he asked, like, what was she going to say to him when she saw Andrew? And his mom just lost it. She just started crying and talking about how proud she was of him and everything like that. And Todd was like, I knew that was coming. Like, he's like, Todd knew.
He was apologizing profusely. Is what he was doing. He's like, that's on me.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it was just such a beautiful television moment, and it was a moment that once again reiterates that these guys are just people. They're just dudes, and they're going out there and they're trying to like live their best lives and live their dreams and all of that. And like,
he was making a sandwich when he got the call.
He was making Jesse hates. Was he going to eat the sandwich then, or was that something he was going to pack in his lunch and eat later?
He was probably packing it.
I knew it. I was going to say Jesse hates that, but for this reason, all the reasons, his performance.
I have a. Maybe we haven't gone through.
I don't know.
Shawn at this
so Jesse does not like making a sandwich for himself that he doesn't get to eat right after he makes it. He doesn't like the fact that he has to put it in a lunch bag and then eat it later.
I get that part. Like, it definitely takes a certain amount of willpower. I thought you had like some
willpower,
philosophical opposition to like sandwiches in little plastic bags.
No, he's just impatient, and he just wants to eat it now.
I respect that. I mean, I would just make myself 2 sandwiches, but
see, Jesse, that is the answer. Just make yourself 2 sandwiches, one for now and one for later.
That doesn't work, because in my head I will know that one of them is for later.
But then
the labor that I'm putting into that sandwich is something I'm not
it's
going to experience the benefits.
Future Jesse didn't like past Jesse for his work.
You don't like ever grocery shop or anything? Like, isn't that?
Grocery shopping is just a necessity of life. See, that I've learned to put up with.
It's like kind of the same thing. You're buying all the ingredients.
He doesn't. In
that moment, you're not like eating in the corner of the grocery store because you don't want the delayed
sugary cereal in his cabinet. He doesn't have one box of Oreos of any variety in his house.
I will say I haven't had either of those things for the longest time, and then I've recently, like over the last month, I've had them back in my apartment.
Good.
Oreos
and fruit snacks, all that stuff. You need all that stuff in your life.
Cheese sticks.
I do so that people don't think I'm a total maniac. I
He is a
do
maniac.
still put up with it, and I do still make myself sandwiches, and I do pack them in little plastic bags. All I'm saying is like the 4 minutes that it takes me to make those sandwiches are the longest 4
Yeah,
minutes
no,
of the
that
day.
I agree with 100%.
So
I thought
long.
you were just saying like I'm never gonna pack my.
No, he'll fucking text me
No.
complaining about it. It's absurd.
I'm on board then. I'm with you now, Jesse.
It's
no,
a
it is
grueling
bullshit. I would
experience.
like. I don't want to wait.
You guys
It
can never have
definitely is
kids. You guys will
longer-
never be able to have kids.
It is.
I'm telling
it is
you
longer.
that right
I think
now.
it's got something to acknowledge.
I hate it.
It's long. It's
I hate
definitely a longer 4 minutes. As long as you still do it, it's
Yeah.
fine. But it's more work.
Anyway,
I'm glad we went on that.
I don't know.
tangent.
Yeah,
That was really
I hate
important.
that we did because I just feel like more frustrated now. But anyway, Andrew Saalfrank, you're our king snake because you deserve it. Not only was it a wonderful story tonight, but of course, the man was absolutely lights out for this team. 1 2/3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts. So welcome to the team. We are glad to have you, and we thank you for the lack of drama tonight.
I also appreciate the intelligence of Arizona Diamondbacks fans giving him the standing O that he got, like recognizing
Yeah.
that this kid showing up in his debut, it being his first time up here, and then B, like just a Diamondbacks reliever throwing 1 2/3 scoreless with 2 strikeouts in and of itself is not that common. So like the D-backs fan giving a standing O was well deserved, and that's something I appreciated.
I agree.
There weren't a whole lot of people in the stands,
No.
but
Not at all.
And I also like them booing Torrey for taking him out too. It was a weird, like half of us are going to cheer and then the other half are going to boo. And
Everybody recognizes.
I
Everybody
appreciated
wants
both sides.
Saalfrank.
Yeah.
Better call Saul.
Well, we thank you guys for being here right now on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our shows go live. Leave us a little thumbs up. It's Jesse's favorite thing in the whole wide world.
it is.
If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, leave us a review. We always appreciate your feedback when it comes to the show. And subscribe to us there. Even if you've subscribed on YouTube, we always appreciate that support. Most importantly, can you believe that we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Without an NFL game.
Man,
And
this is-
Jesse,
yeah, I can
Just-
believe it, and I don't.
he hates
miss
football
it.
so
Although
much. But we're making
going
him
to
play
destroy,
fantasy football.
I am going to destroy Damon in fantasy football this week.
Damon
But
specifically.
other than that, I'm completely
your quarterback?
emotionally detached from football. Joe Burrow,
America's quarterback.
America's quarterback.
Bullshit. Josh Allen.
Cincinnati's quarterback.
Josh Allen is America's quarterback, and I have him. It's our quarterback. Well, our quarterback right here. but-
Daniel Dimes is America's quarterback, and I have him.
Oh, you traitor. you
All right,
bitch.
guys.
Anyway.
Let's cut the bullshit. 2 is America's quarterback. And
Fucking Homer over here.
Well, good thing that all of that time without football is over. NFL is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't miss offer for Week 1. This week, new customers can bet just $200. Can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. It's that easy. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every single game day this September. Check the app to see what you get. Make sure that you opt into all of those promotions before you miss out. And right now, if you haven't subscribed yet, download the app now and use code PHNX to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code PHNX only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. And of course, if you don't want to just bet on those games, you can make sure you go see those games in person. By the way, I want to give a shout out once again to our diehards for coming out tonight. Tonight was our last takeover of the year. And again, Section 144 is absolutely the place to be when we are in the house with our diehards.
The toss-ups from the outfielders were all over our section today.
Yeah, it was kind of wild.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, and also Brent Doyle was just showing off all day, just rocketing balls into the like the main concourse and stuff.
Like he has an arm.
Yeah,
or
like he has an
something.
arm or something.
Like
But
Corbin
I wish
can't
we
do
had
that.
StatCast data on those three.
I really do.
Corbin,
I really
on the
do.
other hand, the first one he threw up to the outfield barely made it over the wall. It literally hit off the top of the wall and almost rocketed and hit
really
somebody in the
did that.
face.
It really did that. But you can enjoy games just like we did tonight, up close and personal in section 144 or wherever you get your tickets. But make sure you get your tickets at Game Time. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. And that reason is because they are all about FOMO. They're all about us procrastinators having our day. So you can snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. One thing about Chase Field and being there for baseball games is it's pretty hot. We can say it's hot. It's not great. It's not unpleasant. It's not terrible. I wasn't cramping up.
Today wasn't too bad. I will say though, not the last takeover. The takeover before that was a tough experience. It was
packed.
Hot.
It was packed.
Yeah, that was one thing. Today there wasn't a whole lot of people.
Yeah, that was that the throwback jersey giveaway night. That was also the night that they had the alumni in house.
Yeah, that day was a little warm in there.
But in game one of this series, Merrill Kelly absolutely shoved. It was his best pitching performance, arguably, of the year. But he once again had to leave the game early due to cramping in his hamstrings. Or his right hamstring cramping, right? It was that.
Yeah, his right hamstring.
And he had a lot in the tank left, and he didn't look too happy when he left the game. And I know that this has kind of been a point of contention for the Diamondbacks. But here's what Merrill Kelly had to say first about his outing.
Probably the most frustrated in a 7-inning, 12 punch-out win that you're probably ever going to see me. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, I had to leave with a cramp again. It's just at this point, I feel like just beating my head against the wall. But we got the win today. That's what matters. But go back to the drawing board with the training staff and the doctors, and see if we can't get this thing figured out.
I mean, right now, that's the only thing that seems to be holding Merrill back, because he has been absolutely outstanding for this team. He even has a better ERA currently than Zach Gallen, and
he does. Yeah.
That's not something that we necessarily expected to see this year. But it's also just odd to see Merrill Kelly having these issues with cramping. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Shawn was just saying it while that video was playing. Like, how is there not a solution to this? How are you not stretching someone out?
It's a football player. Lay him out on the ground, give him a mustard pack, stretch his leg out, throw him back up there.
Get back out there.
But I mean,
some pickle juice.
Yeah, I'm joking, but at the same time, it's part of why this is so frustrating as a fan, because it's you hear cramps and you just think it's just okay, it's just drink more water.
Walk it off.
Just figure it out. It'll go away in a few seconds. And it's for this to be a recurring problem, it almost doesn't feel fair to call it it's just got cramps. It's clearly a bigger issue.
No, it's that he hates playing at Chase Field.
Yeah, and
that's what it is.
You can clearly see him trying to keep the frustration from boiling over.
His resentment is growing for the
when he walked off the mound,
and you can hear the scream through the broadcast.
Yeah, he yelled into his glove. He was not happy. But I mean, to be fair, Merrill gave the Diamondbacks 7 innings of 1 run ball with 12 strikeouts.
It's crazy.
In a game like that, it's all right, it'd be fun to have him pitch the 8th inning, but the D-backs won't have any issues, to sealing. Well, at least you hope they don't have any issues sealing the game up from that point. Yesterday, they ultimately didn't. But this would be a lot different, right? If Merrill was at 90 pitches in, the 5th inning or something, and he's trying to work his way through the inning and he's not able to for this problem. All 3 times that this has happened, and it is 3 consecutive home starts for Merrill Kelly where this has happened, all 3 times he's pitched pretty dang well.
Yeah,
incredibly well.
Because if that does happen in the 5th inning or something like that, then pulling Pfaadt in the 4th or whatever when he got pulled today looks a lot different. Obviously, you couldn't have predicted the bullpen to perform as well as they did today. So if you've used a bunch of arms yesterday or earlier this weekend, and then you have to use a bunch again today, it comes across very differently. So it is very fortunate that this is happening late in games. But I mean, I guess it also makes sense, right? It's not happening in the 1st inning because, that's when he's the freshest.
But he's also been so efficient. His pitch counts have been in the same rough range, around 90 pitches or something. He's not always going to be in the 8th inning when he hits 90 pitches. He'll probably sometimes be in the 5th inning when he hits 90 pitches. And if that happens, it's kind of a problem if Merrill Kelly has to come out of the game.
Like where, because it's at a point now where every game matters. So like you can't really be affording.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially when if it's the postseason or if it's game 162 or something like that, and they need to win. Like,
well, and the Diamondbacks offense wasn't really doing a ton.
No, exactly. So the margin for error is even smaller.
Exactly. They won that game 4-1. But here's what Merrill had to say about the cramping.
Today or somewhere?
No, still super hot. I had to change my jersey after the 4th inning. I don't know if it's just.
Yes, we're getting audio.
I don't know if I don't know if it's just the stadium being old, and because the temperature's definitely dropped in the last couple of weeks. It's not as hot as it was. I mean, I know it's still hot out there, and I know it's still a big metal box that we're in, but it's definitely. I'm definitely sweating more here than I am other places. Through 5 innings in LA, through a bunch of pitches, through 5 innings, didn't feel anything. And obviously, if you look at the games that I've cramped, it's only been here. So,
yeah, I can relate. I'm sweating through my shirt now as we speak.
Fucking foot the bill and turn the AC up when he's on the mound.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think it's that simple though.
Do we just need to figure out the code on the AC? Like there's a little lock on
the box.
The thermostat.
Got it on lock.
Derek is gonna find the thermostat.
I
He's
haven't
gonna
do
turn it
this
down
at a
a few
restaurant.
notches.
I will do it here. I will do it at Chase Field. I will do it wherever because I don't. No, I mean he's right, but it's kind of weird because when you're there, it's really not that unpleasant. But we're not on the field playing a sport.
The field is different, and to be fair, some people might have the criticism like, well, not all ballparks are air conditioned in the first place, right? Like if you're pitching in Atlanta in the middle of the summer, it's if it's 82 degrees and a little humid or something at the ballpark
90%
right now,
humidity. Yeah, good luck.
It could be a lot worse in other ballparks at certain times of the year. So what I suspect is that like indoors, that feels a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like if you had your thermostat in your house into like 84 degrees or something and it was humid in there, that's miserable, right? Whereas if you're outdoors and it's 83 or 84, maybe that's a little bit more bearable.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, and also I know some people have criticized like, well, no one else is having problems with this, right?
Sure.
Like Zach Gallen's not cramping up out there. Obviously, this is a Merrill has said a lot that he sweats significantly more than the average person, which I guess every human being is different in that regard. It sort of makes sense. So he's just in a position where he's especially sensitive to this sort of thing.
Merrill issue exacerbated by Chase Field.
Well, I mean, he talks about of course, not experiencing this elsewhere, which that makes sense. But I don't know. He does take some shots at Chase Field, saying it's an old building, and that I don't know. I don't really know what the answer here is.
I mean,
I feel like there's other resources that the Diamondbacks could be using to ensure that he doesn't.
That's the thing that I like. I struggle to understand how it's not like this is not the first time or even the second time this has happened.
Do we not have bananas?
Well, I'm
Are
just
there no
saying,
bananas
like, how
at Chase Field?
It seems like every time it's like, oh, we're gonna try this much harder to fix it. Like I feel like when one of your best pitchers is having struggled with cramps and it's become clear that it's not like a here and there, like this is pretty. Like you should probably ramp the solution phase up to 100 there.
That's what they're saying is that they have been. He's on the hydration program.
I have a problem. I have a potential problem with this.
He's not getting an IV between innings. So they're not doing everything.
That's not the problem. The problem is,
I mean,
the problem is that he's pitching really well.
Yeah, that's
in
the
these
craziest
games
part.
where he's cramping. So what if the dehydration is what's causing him to pitch well? I don't know that that's not the answer.
Or it could be he's getting dehydrated because he's pitching well. Could be the reverse.
I think he's getting dehydrated.
That's so much more reasonable than the thing I said. I don't know why you would suggest something far more reasonable than my crazy ass idea here.
Doesn't
but
he also hate like the uniforms? Do you think he just hates us?
Do you think he wants to be a Diamondback?
Maybe.
No, he does. He's the one guy who is like maybe a little skeptical of the purple.
But he also hates the red. He said he hates it more than the purple.
Fuck it. Just tell us you like Dodger blue, Merrill. Go fuck yourself.
He literally was like, I don't like the purple. The red is worse than the purple. And the stadium sucks.
Yeah.
And I hate you and your mom.
That seems to be the only solution now at this point.
No, I mean, if you hate the purple jersey, you're just objectively wrong.
Yeah,
but
he's true.
No, I mean,
right.
it does suck. I mean, it's only going to get cooler, and they're not playing at least the first series of a playoff game.
Yeah.
Or any of the first playoff games here.
We're fine.
So
it's fine. It's fine.
That part's good. But I
in
mean,
October, theoretically, it's cooler. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe in October, you could open the roof. Yeah. I mean, even in September, at times they're able to open the
Could you
roof. I don't
imagine?
know if this year that will.
By the way, tonight when that one ball went to the warning track and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. caught it, I think the Rockies had bases loaded. I think we started a humidor chant at one point, or at least we were thanking the humidor for keeping that ball in play.
The best/worst part of where we are sitting is that I could not see that ball.
Yeah,
I did
you
not
just had to
know.
rely on the reaction of the crowd to
and
know.
honestly, the crowd wasn't huge, and I'm somewhat used to the crowd being about 50-50 D-backs fans and non-D-backs fans.
Sure.
So I heard cheers, and I still wasn't completely sure. I was like, I don't know. And then I finally saw Lourdes run away from the wall with the ball. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Pedro said he also hates staying hydrated, so there's that. Yeah, like he
True.
hates
I don't drink
everything.
enough
The
water.
man hates everything.
Is he talking about? Oh,
Yeah, he was talking about.
I thought he was
Merrill.
saying he also doesn't like staying hydrated.
Yeah.
'Cause I also, me three, do not like staying hydrated.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen him.
Always reminds Jesse. Derek never reminds me to drink water, and I'm the one that needs it. Well, I don't know. Maybe you need it too.
Honestly, I'm pretty good about staying hydrated.
I'm terrible.
You
One of
fucking got
my-
adopted by the entire Coyotes crew, okay? I have to fucking look out for Jesse, all right?
That's
Someone
fair.
has to keep an eye
Listen,
out for Jesse.
I'll never forget the first time I came out here and I got to the hotel, and the first thing the guy did is put a couple bottles of water on the desk. And he asked where I was from, and I said New York. And he put a couple bottles of water. So you're gonna need.
He's
this.
like, here,
Smart.
here's one more.
And
Here's three.
That's one thing. Like I just grew up like just not really drinking water.
You didn't have
We
to.
didn't really need it.
You didn't have to.
Like we really didn't.
Now you live in a
There's
desert.
enough water in that apple juice. We're fine. Now I'll pass out. That happens.
Speaking of Chase Field being old and things not working there, their out-of-town scoreboards don't work, but ours
Ooh.
still do. So let's take a look at the out-of-town scores because this isn't great. This isn't great.
Yeah,
Right
when
when
you
we needed the
start-
Dodgers to continue beating people, they lose to the Miami Marlins. The Cincinnati Reds win a close one over the Seattle Mariners.
They were down 6-3 late. In
They
that
were down
game, walked it
6-3.
off.
San Francisco did lose to the Cubs, but I don't even know. Like Cubs, San Francisco,
I guess
like
at that
whatever.
point, at this point, we got to be rooting for the Cubs there. I feel
Yeah,
like.
you're right. I mean, we got to be rooting for anybody that's around us. Cubs can have that second wild card spot. We just need one of the wild card spots.
Yeah.
San Diego beats Philly
I
8-0,
guess.
and Milwaukee beats Pittsburgh 7-3. So
Still need that. San
pretty much
Diego,
everybody we needed to lose one. Maybe Philly. That one's fine. I don't care.
Yeah,
about
I
San
mean the
Diego.
Philly and Milwaukee games. I don't know how much that legitimately matters
Yeah.
at this point.
But
The
I mean,
D-backs are a ways.
Milwaukee
behind the
game
Brewers.
matters just because. What does the Central look like at this point? I honestly haven't looked
I
at.
think
The
they're
Cubs
2.5 games.
Cubs are
apart.
2.5
Cubs?
back.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So-
they are.
It matters for that. It matters for who the D-backs might end up playing. I guess.
That's a fair point. So let's take a look at the wild card standings to see how everything stacks up. Because with the Diamondbacks losing tonight, they are now one full game
guess I could have waited 30 seconds.
out of the wild card.
Looked at this graphic. To
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
how far
yeah.
back they were.
Probably. But yeah, no, this isn't great. Not great. And again, I am still fairly uneasy about the 7 games that the Diamondbacks have against Cubs with how they're playing lately. But Shawn brought it up. This is, tomorrow's game is one of those games that if the Diamondbacks can't find a way to win this series against the Rockies,
DEA day.
I don't. What are we even doing anymore? At that
I mean,
point?
and
You know
what we're
I mean? Like,
doing
what are we
is
doing?
is trying to be the least sucky of 4 sucky teams. Like that's the thing we keep
There's
saying
some truth to that.
is like
Yeah.
they all there's 4.5 good teams in the National League, and that half is the Brewers, maybe the Cubs, depending on which one wins the division. Like I guess that really doesn't math.
Wait,
at all,
4.5. So you've got
There's
Braves,
4.5.
Dodgers, Phillies.
It's the 3 teams that are good, and then the Central champion, and then maybe just 4 good teams, 3.5.
Maybe just 2 good teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's just the
there's
Braves
just
and
2 good
Dodgers.
teams. That's all.
All
there is.
I'm saying is
The
that
rest of
whether
us
it's
are
the
just
D-backs,
also
Giants,
there.
Marlins, or Reds that make the playoffs, they all suck. And so that's kind of what we're doing here is trying to be the least sucky of 4 sucky teams. Like they are not playing good baseball, but no one's playing good baseball. So it's still like we've been saying for the last 2 months, it feels like it's still, they're still fine.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
still
All of those teams are below 500 since the All-Star break.
And so,
All
like,
4 of those.
if
Yeah,
there
it's
was
wild.
if there was a CNCY and a Miami would be hard. We can't ever have a Miami location.
no.
What would you do there?
MMM.
There's like almost nothing you can do.
Yeah. My point is they're all having the same conversation about their teams, right? Like they're all struggling, like trying to stay afloat, hoping they can back their way into a postseason spot. So like,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here. Is we're all just trying to be like,
And
we all suck. I hope you suck a little bit more.
And even then, it feels like a lottery.
It literally does. It just feels like.
I mean, it just feels like
we gotta hope we get a good outing from Pfaadt, or Merrill doesn't cramp up and he can go 9.
Well, and I even mean in the playoffs, right?
Well, yeah.
Like if you're playing this poorly and you end up playing against actual, good teams, like you playing against these, Braves teams, playing against these Dodger teams, like. It just feels like you're keeping your fingers crossed that maybe they could do something special, but I don't know how many people actually believe in the Diamondbacks' ability to do something impactful once they get to the playoffs, right?
I think
or any of those teams that we just talked about. Like, I don't know. I don't know if any of those teams really can.
No one's betting on those teams in this series, but I think it's something that we've said, or at least I've said, and I know people in the chat have said a few times throughout the year. Like,
just gotta
you make it to the playoffs, then anything's possible.
Yeah,
like the Phillies barely made the playoffs last year. It's we do have good pitchers and we do have guys that can. Plus, in the postseason, like if we get to the postseason and all of a sudden we have a week stretch where Emmanuel Rivera is playing like Emmanuel Rivera from the first half of the season, then all of a sudden he goes from
Emmanuel to
then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, this team. Because that's the difference in my mind for playoff teams is you get those guys like the NL or the CS MVP and the World Series MVP are almost never your Randy
actual
Johnson.
like
It's your Steve Pearsons. It's random guys like that who are just like they show up in those moments. You only need a couple of good weeks of baseball when you get to the postseason, and this team has shown that they're more than capable of being like the best team in baseball over any given 2-week stretch. They've also shown that they could be the worst. So it's like you just gotta, if you can just be the least sucky of 4 sucky teams, get to the postseason. Honestly, as long as you don't play the Dodgers, it feels like anything's possible.
We talk a lot about how they had an easy schedule and things like that, but there was a period of time in April when they were facing these good teams and they were putting up a good fight and they were even winning a lot of the series that they were in. So
they're 16-33, I believe, against above 500 teams,
which is
June 1st.
I feel like there was a point early on where I was bragging about them being one of the only teams that had a winning record against teams above 500.
Those days are long gone.
Long gone.
Those are before the dark days.
Hey, but Cogs is NLCS Tommy fam. I'm pretty sure I have said, and I've said this about like 3 or 4 different guys, but I
know Cogs didn't drink.
No,
I know Cogs didn't drink at
I
Chase
say
Field,
that
but
about
Cogs
any
must be
player
drunk
that
now.
is not good, but also not so bad that I hate them.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not going to name names, but there's a shortstop who's been on this team for a very long time who I'm like, he's not going to win this team. He's not going to be an NLCS MVP. But like, Tommy Pham could be an NLCS MVP. He's not that good, but he seems like he has demonstrated to me at points throughout this season and throughout his career that he can be really good for a stretch.
Yeah.
I have not seen that from certain people like on this team during this year. So like, there's certain guys that I think could, be an NLCS.
Yeah, just Dre Jameson and Jake McCarthy.
No, Dre Jameson could win us a playoff game. I don't know if I've said the NLCS thing because I don't know if I'd ever say that about a reliever.
I don't know if Dre Jameson is going to pitch.
I said that before his arm blew up.
That's fair. Yeah. We have a pretty interesting quote that came out after this game that I feel like we should address. Obviously, we're not there to get this. So this is from Teo Mackey from the Arizona Republic. These are words from Evan Longoria after tonight's game. I think in the dugout, obviously, guys were trying to create some energy and some feel. Some of that can be, and I'm not saying this to knock the fans, but when there's not that many people in the building, it tends to feel a little bit dead too. And I don't think that has anything to do with the way that the team in the dugout felt. It's just that sometimes when it's quiet in here, it feels a little bit more dead than it actually is. And some of that is on us to be able to bring that energy.
But it feels like he's also saying that it's on the fans.
It feels
to bring
very
the
Fence
energy.
City. Yeah. He's not trying to blame anybody. It's not our fault, but it's also not your guys' fault. But it's got to be someone's fault.
There were 12,994 people in the stands
there
tonight.
It
The
is.
Diamondbacks are in a playoff race, and it's September. This is the most relevant this team has been in September in 5 years. You've got less than 13,000, and that's the reported number, right?
Yeah,
I think we were all there in the building. I don't know if there were actually that many people in the stands.
I could have gone and counted them all myself.
What I will say to that comment is he said like part of it is on us to create that energy. Part of it was on you to create that energy over the last 2 months, which you failed to do. Like
that's fair.
It's very different if and this is something that I feel like you said earlier during the year, Jesse, is that like it's different if you've gotten to this point by like playing 500 ball all year. But as opposed to being like getting everyone really excited for the first half of the season, and then everyone, fair or not, but understandably being like, oh, this is Arizona sports being Arizona sports again. They weren't actually that good. Fuck this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and really villainize the fans for that. I do think, fans do need to recognize that this is a team in a playoff race and they should support the team. But as I said when I showed up, it's a Tuesday night game against the Rockies. Who's going to that game?
But it's also September baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a team in a playoff race.
But
hold on,
it's been a minute since this team, anyone here has heard September baseball and been like,
bro.
I need to care.
This is crazy.
And
you guys act like you have never been to a goddamn sporting event in Arizona before. The facts are the facts. It's a Colorado Rockies team that nobody has interest in going and watch, right? So when you see Chase Field, but when you see Chase Field filled, yes, part of it is the fact that there are fans that came to watch the opposing team. But more importantly, there are Diamondbacks fans that came to watch the opposing team. They are excited that they're playing someone like the Yankees or the Red Sox
100%.
or even the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers games
Especially
are filled up with the Dodgers.
where you're seeing a bunch of teams, like you're seeing everyone in the league.
Right.
The idea
there's
of seeing
more
the Rockies
exciting.
is,
there's more exciting.
You can go to a game with more interesting people. You're not seeing the Rockies here.
A Giants game probably would be like this too. I mean, I don't imagine there's going to be more Giants fans that show up. Don't get me wrong, and maybe a few more Diamondbacks fans because it's the Giants. But those same fans are like, it's the Rockies, right? So like,
I get it. I mean, I'm not like I grew up here and I sort of know the way that this tends to work. But in years past, I will say, it has felt like things ticked up toward the end of these seasons, and this attendance number 12,994 is the lowest the Diamondbacks have had against any team since May.
Yeah,
this is a new low for the Diamondbacks,
and that's why you need to create that energy over the last month and a half, 2 months, because they have not
game against the Rockies.
Yeah, but I think it would be different. I think there would be more people there if they had played good baseball all year. Like if it didn't feel like it doesn't feel like this team is going to make the playoffs.
If they
that is a very fair
feel
point.
Like a playoff.
Yes.
You're right. You're right.
Absolutely.
But hold on though. The onus also is there. I'm saying this is on the fans. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the fans definitely need to support them more. I'm saying this is indicative of Arizona fans, right? But also it's like it is that stuff, right? It is the fact that they're still kind of hovering and teetering on the bubble. They're not really in the playoffs. They're not even an exciting team to watch because a lot of times they're more frustrating to watch lately than they are actually watch. But like it's not on the team to always perform in order to bring the fans out. Fans need to support their team when your team is in a playoff hunt through the good times and the bad. And it is frustrating to watch this team, but it's also exciting and fun at times. And that's what I'm saying is I see where this isn't the first time we've heard from the players, right? The night we were talking about, the last time we did a takeover, Christian Walker made comments about how exciting the atmosphere was in the building that night, right? And he even made comments there that seemed a bit about the same thing. Tonight was awesome, but jerseys, we don't really have people come out like this, and it would be great to see people come out like this.
I think obviously the reality is that there's truth on both sides of this. Like the fans are not going to sit here and accept abuse for 30 years, right? They're not going to sit here, or 25. They're not going to sit here and watch this team, which obviously they've won a World Series. I'm not saying it's been all 25 years, but they're not going to sit here and watch this team suck year in and year out and be like, gotta get to the ballpark. And then Nicholas is making what I think is a somewhat valid point. It's not like going to Chase on a Tuesday night is like you're going somewhere nice.
It's not an experience.
It's not an experience. And we were even talking about this before the game. You don't even get the experience of watching the roof open and close anymore. There's really, what reason is there outside of the fact that when you look at the standings, they're close to a playoff spot? What real reason is there to go to this Arizona Diamondbacks game? It's a team that's not playing well against one of the worst teams in baseball in a shitty baseball stadium with their middle of the rotation to end of the rotation pitcher pitching and a lineup that's not really getting me all that excited.
Because I didn't know being a sports fan was just doing it when the times were good.
It is when you're raised in fucking Arizona. That's how that shit works here. And I don't think you can, at a certain point, you need to accept the reality.
But that's not what other teams have happened to them. So when players come here, it's fucking weird.
I understand.
It's fucking weird when players come here 100%. And have to deal with it.
It is weird. I'm not from here. I think it's weird. Yeah. But when you're raised in Arizona, to sit here and criticize someone who grew up as an Arizona sports fan for not showing out, it's like, that's sports culture here. That's just, and I think, like, not to pat ourselves, like, we're trying to change that. You look at our takeover tonight, we were sitting there in the corner of the outfield screaming, and people were staring at us being like, what the fuck are these? It's the second inning and this kid's walking around with a stuffed monkey. What's going on? And like, go fuck yourself. We're having fun. That's how it should be. Yeah. But like, that's the reality of it. This is the bed that has been made by Arizona sports over the last however many years. And like, you have to acknowledge that. So I'm not going to sit here and really, which again, they were trying to beat around the bush, but I'm not really going to sit here and accept criticism of fans when the product is not good. Like, there is not really a reason for them to want to come here when that culture is the way it is, and the team has not been playing good. I think by and large, yes, that culture needs to change. But when you're sitting in that culture and it's not like anyone is really doing anything, like, again, not to pat ourselves on the back, no one in the city gives a fuck about baseball. None of the other outlets talk about baseball. So you're sitting here as a fan. They don't really half the fans don't know, which is why I gave fans credit earlier for applauding Saalfrank. Like, I was a little bit surprised that they were fully aware, and not because Diamondback fans are just fucking dumb, but like, they're outside of, like, there's the diehards, but there's no one else out there really doing anything to create that excitement, including the team. They've sucked for the last 2 months. Why should anyone give a shit? It just looks like the D-backs being the D-backs again.
The real problem, I mean, tonight is what it is, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. The real issue is going to be if next weekend, when the Chicago Cubs come to town in one of the more important series the Diamondbacks have played in a long time,
knowing that Cubs fans won't carry their fucking weight in this
building is, half and half or 60-40 in favor of the Cubs or something like that. That's a problem, and that's something where as a player,
I think that's a best case scenario.
60-40 is so generous.
60-40 might be generous.
50-50, that's because the stadium is full and a bunch of D-backs fans have bought tickets in the last month, because I know damn well that the Cubs fans are pulling their weight in this series.
They just have to. I mean, as a player, I just can't imagine how demoralizing that really has to be. And you see Evan Longoria make a comment about it here. They're not gonna talk about that to the media all that much, right? They don't want to make it look like they're blaming their fan base. Or
but if you lose every game over the next week, why would fans? If I'm a fan, I'm sitting here and looking like now they're further out of the playoffs and the lines are going to be longer.
No, I think you're literally crazy. Like, you're talking about a team that's 3 games over 500, and you're saying they're not putting a quality product on the field. That's insane to say.
Are you? They're not. Objectively not.
That's insane to say.
What quality are they putting on the field? The runs they're scoring?
Dude, this is a team that is fucking ahead of schedule, and they are literally playing
right now
in the month of September.
Month and a half.
That's crazy.
Over the last month and a half, what quality have they put on? They have not been a good baseball team.
I'm not saying that
that's my point. They're not putting good quality on the field.
You're bringing up a month where they had a losing month, terrible stretch.
Because that's how it works in Arizona. They were really good over the first half of the season, but if you're an Arizona sports fan and they start sucking and there's no one out there,
you just stop watching them and you don't come out to the games anymore.
That is how it works here. I'm not saying it is.
It's not how it works in sports.
You
can say it works here that way. That's not how it works in sports.
I'm not saying it's how it should work here. But the reality, if you are anybody on the Arizona Diamondbacks and you asked them 2 months ago, if you play like dog shit over the next 2 months, do you think fans are still going to show up? They're going to say no. Anybody with their fucking head on straight would say no, because that's how it works here. If the team is not playing well, people are not going to show out. I don't think that's how it should be. I'm not from a place that behaves like that, but that's just the reality of it. So if you're a team that wants people to show up, but then you play 2 months straight, basically, of bad baseball, you can't sit here and also be surprised when they don't, because that's the way it's worked for the last 25 fucking years of this team existing. That's my point. I think
but Evan Longoria wasn't on the team for 25 years.
No,
he played for the San Francisco Giants.
Your point that
he played for a shitty team in Tampa Bay that people didn't come out either.
Your point that's weird to players who show up. It's weird to me. Again, I don't think it's how it should be. But to sit here and be like, you have a point. Evan Longoria, it's like, you don't really, because he has a point, but to sit here and act surprised by it like he's saying something profound is like, I don't think that's genuine, because it's not. It's how this thing has operated for the last 20 years.
It's still inexcusable.
It is inexcusable. I think it's complete
it's both.
bullshit.
It's both
but
sides. For sure.
You have a fair point, but it's still like it can't happen
No,
in a
I
playoff
agree.
chase.
I 100%. I 100% agree
games.
that it can't happen. I think it's absurd. Again, I am from a place. I am from Buffalo, New York. We spent 20 years as one of the biggest jokes in the NFL. But the people always showed up. That's how it should be in sports. But it's not how it operates here. That needs to change.
Yeah.
But I think as
that's
Arizona's,
what he's saying, though. That's what Evan Longoria is saying.
Yeah,
is it's hard for them to muster up that energy when you feel like you're literally like it's a pandemic.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Again, agreed. But you in Arizona, if you're not going to play good for 2 months, you can't also be surprised when they. And I'll say this. I don't think it's right. It's not how I behave as a fan, but it is Arizona sports culture. And I think there is something to, like, if you're not going to give us a good product, go fuck yourself. I think there's got to be a certain amount of loyalty no matter what. But like, I don't think it should be blind. Like the attendance is obviously going to wane with performance, and they just haven't been good that recently. So I'm not surprised by it by any means. But I think it's bullshit, but I'm not surprised by it.
We weren't talking about being surprised by it. I've literally fucking gone to sports games here my entire goddamn life, so I'm not surprised by it at all.
But,
and even the people in the fucking chat talking about the Suns, you're full of shit. Where were you guys in 2016? I don't want to. Like that arena was empty at times, and the only people that were there at times were opposing fans, just like now with the Diamondbacks at times. So
I guess the point that I want to make is that Evan Longoria, maybe he hasn't played here his career, but he did sign here as a free agent. He chose to come here. There needs to be a certain awareness of what playing in Arizona means. And
I mean, I don't think his comment necessarily made it seem like he wasn't aware. He's not saying that he was surprised necessarily. Right. He's saying that it has an impact, and that's a real thing.
I guess ultimately my problem with the comment is that it doesn't acknowledge the fact that the team has not put out a good product over the last 2 months. And you have to acknowledge that when you're talking about Arizona fans. Like, that's how it works. You can't sit here, because whether or not he wants it to be, that's a criticism towards the fans, and a valid one, but you can't criticize them without acknowledging the fact that you also have not been good over the last 2 months, especially a guy like Evan Longoria, who he specifically has not been good. Like, it's how it works here. And you can't criticize the fans when you showed up to this situation, and that's how it's been working. Like, it's house rules. Especially if I'm an Arizona fan, Evan Longoria shows up and he's like, the fans aren't here. And if I'm one of those fans, which I'm not, because I support no matter what, but if I'm one of those fans, I'm like, dog, you haven't been good for 2 months. What? I don't care that you're almost in a playoff spot. We've been here before. You guys are going to shit the bed over the last month. Like, Diamondbacks fans have been hurt a lot. Arizona sports fans have been hurt a lot. And again, I don't think it's fair, but it's just the reality of the beast.
I don't think any of that is the case. I think the Diamondbacks are a really young team, and I think everybody is still like has their allegiances to other teams. I think that's the reason why in this city you get so many opposing fans. I don't think it's a lot of the stuff. I think the Diamondbacks just don't like do a great job at building up their fan base. I think that they've really dropped the ball in a lot of cases.
Well, yeah,
in the past.
I mean, that's the other side of this too, is that a lot of the people here. Yeah, that's something that's important to acknowledge too. But I think also as part of my argument is that a lot of the people here are not Diamondbacks fans.
Yeah.
First, right? So they're only going to tune in when the team is good. They're only going to give a shit when the team is good, because their team's not here. So
and to be fair, that's the only way sometimes you can win over people from their team to liking the team that they live in, right?
That's what happens when you put a baseball team in a state that has had baseball for years, but you didn't get the pro baseball team here until the late 90s. Like, that is going to be a problem for at least the rest of this generation. Yeah. And that's something I don't think is like a cultural thing. Like, that is just, I mean, it's a cultural thing, but also like that's again what happens when you put a team in Arizona in 1998.
The problem is that attendance is up around baseball, and baseball is seeing it, and the Diamondbacks
and
have
attendance
games
is up for the Diamondbacks.
It is up for the Diamondbacks.
I think they're up 4,000 on average.
Yeah,
this year,
that's also
like
part of this. I think a large part of this is much more a referendum on the Rockies than it is the Diamondbacks too. Like, and part of this is the Diamondbacks, obviously, but like, if this is not the Rockies, there's going to be more fans there not because, like you were saying earlier, not because they want to see the other team, or not because they're fans of the other team, but they more interesting players.
All right. Well, that's all we got on that, but I don't know.
That's all.
I mean,
are you sure you're done, Shawn?
Really,
I can go forever.
I mean, the one thing we can agree on is that you can't blame the fans at all for your team not performing, and you can't say
at
like,
a certain point,
hey, we didn't get
have to
energy
be
tonight
accountable,
from you, right? But it is also something that at times is
and also
it's only a trait of this team that home field advantage is not a home field advantage.
No, it is a very specific
Diamondbacks.
Arizona problem, 100%. But again, it's just Arizona's a very unique place, at both just in general and as a sports market.
It sucks when you play a team like the Guardians and they have as many fans as you do at your own stadium.
But
and
I mean,
like, Cleveland's not even that big of a city.
No, yeah, those ones.
The Orioles. I mean, there were a pretty decent number of Orioles fans in this ballpark.
But those ones are a little different, especially those two specifically, because this is the first year that the schedule has changed. It's been a while since those fan bases have gotten to see those. Like those ones, I understand. You see the Dodgers when they were at Fenway Park, there was a decent amount of blue there. I mean, it's Fenway Park,
yeah,
so it was still mostly Red Sox fans.
Rare time.
Those are a little different, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like that's not a problem. You go to any Dodgers game, again, Dodgers are a little bit. You go to any Cubs game, whatever. You go to any National League game that you normally would get here, you're going to have a decent amount of the away fan. I think it's going to change eventually. Like, because think about us. Like as an entity, there's never been anyone that's cared about baseball in this city from a media perspective like we have. Is that? Do you think that's fair, or has given as much energy towards baseball?
I think
98.7.
I think. Well, hold on. I was going to say it's no different than the fan support itself, right? And that's what I'm talking about when you talk about building a fan base and actually having people care about a team. You have to do it all the time, not just when things are going good.
Yeah.
Just like you have to come out to the ballpark
from a whole bunch
all
of
the
different
time.
angles. It's not just the fans. It's not just the team. Like the media definitely plays a role in it,
right? And
like,
so the less you talk about it, because they're not very good at this time, the less people are going to be interested in it, and all of this, this cascading thing. Now,
that's
honestly,
why we still do post games after losses,
right?
And like we're here no matter what.
The Diamondbacks, they're not a team necessarily that like this is one thing I say about them all the time. They need to continue to build their fan base. They are not a team that is turning season ticket holders away or anything like that, right? They don't have a wait list for season ticket holders.
I think it is very important to consistently remind people that, like, obviously there's people like me and Cogs, Jesse, like, a lot of Diamondbacks fans were here before the Diamondbacks. A lot of Diamondbacks fans were watching baseball before the Diamondbacks existed. So you give it time. When generations that were born in Arizona grew up as Arizona fans, like those people will eventually start outnumbering the people who grew up as Dodgers fans, grew up as Yankees fans, and adopted the D-backs as a second team.
But you have to and honestly,
you have to win.
That's this team's DNA, right? Jerry Colangelo had a very different vision for what this franchise needed to be instead of what the rest of the ownership group had. Jerry Colangelo was the voice of reason in the room that said this town is not the same. They're not just coming out for some fairy tale, wonderful day at the park, at the ballpark with their family, enjoying some hot dogs and enjoying some time out in the sun. This isn't that kind of city. It needs to be a winner and it needs to win fast. And like, that's kind of what is going on now. I feel like the Diamondbacks haven't won in a long enough time that people are, completely disinterested in it. Like this year's team and the young players on this team are getting people excited again. But if they don't continue to build on it and this team doesn't continue to take steps forward, like they took this year, like they took even last year, then people aren't going to stay interested in it. But baseball is just not one of those instantaneous processes. And honestly, that's the thing about it with the fans is that like the fan support does improve the team. Like coming out and spending your money on the team then gives them money to invest back in the team and things like that. So you can't invest in a team when you're getting attendance of 12,000 people.
No, it is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy for sure. Like it is. It's certainly tough. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, you need your owner to make an investment. Like, again, I want to bring up the stadium again. Like, I feel like that is important in all of this.
There's a lot to be said about that stadium, for sure.
It is. I mean, you got the A's and you got the Rays, who I think are objectively the two worst stadiums in baseball.
Yeah.
And after that, I don't think you're going to have to go very far before you find Chase Field. Like it's
one of the oldest ballparks
it's not,
in the National League.
This isn't Milwaukee. This isn't, like there's a lot of shit to do in Phoenix. There's a lot of stuff to do here on any night.
And Mo brought that up earlier about Buffalo, right? You have the Bills or you have Chili's, and that's all you have.
Yeah, I mean, like, fuck you, Mo, but also, yeah.
That hurt, but it's true.
But, like, it's negative zero. It's 0 degrees on a Sunday in October. You're staying your ass inside. You're going to watch football.
Yeah.
Like, it's different. So there is, you don't have, there's so many facets to this, which is why, like, we're both right. Like, everyone's right. There's so much, like Yoshi saying ownership directly. Oh no, he's talking about Cincy. But like, there's people that blame ownership, right? People are in here talking
they're
about
not, like you said, not putting a quality product on the field.
Like, and there's that. The players, the team's not playing well enough. Fans don't show out. So
I have so many little arguments. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that this ownership isn't actively trying to put a bad product down the field. No. I just think things aren't working out for them. I mean, right? I think there's a lot of things, but I'm not going to do it.
Everyone wants an owner that's a baseball fan. Most owners are businessmen,
right? Yeah. At the end of the day,
they're not gonna lose money for the fun of it.
Well, Jordan Lawlar hit 2 home runs tonight.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. But first, I want to let everybody know that if you get in a discussion like this that gets heated, you can always get out of it with OG's Brands gummies.
There you go.
You know, there's no way to mend fences like deciding.
Are you mad at me, Derek?
I hate you right now. Their decision it's 400 times easier, 420 times easier. Now that OG's is getting involved with their fruits and cream mixed bags. Of course, they have all of these Hall of Fame flavors. I was going to say Hall of flavor, but that's probably kind of cool too. Hall of flavors. But they have all of these Hall of Fame flavors in one place, including the fruits, which you can get a red apple, watermelon, peach combination. Creams, you get blackberries and cream, orange creamsicle, and peaches and cream. They also come in a sativa or an indica blend, allowing you to customize your OG's experience, whether it's the end of the night like this, you need to wrap things up, or you got a rant that you got to get to, and you get in on the sativa, so it helps you fuel through that. And, maybe helps fuel you better than the crowd tonight at Chase Field. I don't know. I'm trying to blame somebody here, but I will say that, of course, we thank OG's for their wonderful gummies. We are huge fans of them, and you can check out our friends at OG's Brands for yourself and try one or a few of their many delicious flavors. Check them out all across social media at OG's Brands and online at ogsbrands.com to find them at a local dispensary near you. Must be 21 years or older to enjoy. Please enjoy responsibly. Also, big shout out to the Four Peaks Draft Room tonight, and of course our friends at Four Peaks for always holding us down with their wide variety of beers. But again, Four Peaks Draft Room, an absolutely tremendous place to watch a baseball game from. We had some great tables out there, and of course you can make sure that if you have a terrible seat when you go to Chase Field and you don't like where you're at, go on down to the Four Peaks Draft Room. You can get yourself a table, watch the whole game from there. It's located on the suite level. And of course, it has all of the Four Peaks beers. Four Peaks is the official craft beer of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And of course, we wanted to once again thank you guys for coming out for our takeover event. It was an absolute blast tonight. Make sure to follow Four Peaks at their calendar at fourpeaks.com/events. Stay up to date on everything Four Peaks and follow them on social media at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly. Jesse, why isn't Jordan Lawlar on the Arizona Diamondbacks roster yet?
Oh man, we're gonna have another hour.
I'm letting him rant now. This is a Jesse rant. Yeah, go off. Go off, young king.
Jordan Lawlar hit 2 home runs today for the Reno Aces. He is now slashing .358, .438, .612 since being promoted to Reno. That's in 16 games. That's a .1050 OPS.
You down with OBP? Yeah, you know me. Oh man.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Obviously we know
Nick Ahmed has 2 home runs all year. Just want to throw that out there.
Nick Ahmed has 2 home runs all year.
All year.
Jordan Lawlar has 2 in one game.
I just want to put that out there. And it is, it's a PCL, so grain of salt, I guess, but
Speaking of the PCL, season. Jake McCarthy is the PCL player of the week. There's another guy that we should.
But David Smith, you are an Arizona Diamondback. Woo!
What are we doing? What are we doing with these minor league moves, Jesse?
So Nick Ahmed has had a kind of a weird season. We've talked about this before. in that
He's so nice.
He does.
He has reverse splits very significantly. So he's hitting 293 this year. Entering today, he's hitting 293 this year against righties with a 439 slugging percentage. Pretty darn good numbers. I looked up the expected stats against right-handed pitching. His expected batting average is 249. His expected slug is 366. So not nearly as good as the actual numbers have been. That suggests there's been some sort of batted ball luck there. On the flip side, Nick Ahmed entered today hitting 159 with a 212 slugging percentage against lefties, which is obviously terrible. Despite the fact that Nick Ahmed, his primary role on this team is to start against lefties like he did today. He's really struggled in that regard this year. The expected numbers there suggest that he has underperformed a little bit. A 212 expected batting average and a 302 expected slugging percentage, both of which are still very poor, right? So at this point, you have good numbers against righties, but poor expected numbers against righties. You've got atrocious numbers, frankly, against lefties, and still very poor expected numbers against lefties. Nick Ahmed has good range at shortstop.
He does have range. That is not a good arm anymore.
He does not have a good arm. He has a pretty poor arm for that position.
I mean, tonight he had a play. He made a spectacular play to field a ball, and then couldn't get it to first base in order to get the runner out.
You had to struggle so hard to find something nice to say about Nick Ahmed.
He has good range.
Good range. As
he does.
Major League Baseball shortstop.
He has tremendous range.
He better have good range.
Well, no, the reason that Nick Ahmed, he is a good
he better have good something.
Shortstop in some ways. But yeah, the arm is not really the way the arm is not what it used to be. And he's making $10 million this season, right? I believe a little bit over $10 million this season. He
second highest paid player.
I think he's the third highest paid player.
Do you think
if he count Bumgarner?
Right. Cattell makes more, and then Bumgarner, of course, makes more. Those are the only two guys who make more this season. So why are the Diamondbacks on this team
if he was not Nick Ahmed? Do you think how much of the fact that he's Nick Ahmed and has been a part of this organization forever?
You mean just the fact that his tenure,
family
the respect and the loyalty,
I think that's big. I mean, I think the contract probably plays some sort of a role on some level,
and I guess it's different because
you're talking about his tenure with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, well, I'm saying how much of kind of the showing Nick Ahmed, Mr. Diamondback.
That's Gabby Moreno.
But I mean, he is in a sense that
what the fuck
he's been there forever. You know what I mean?
I get it. Calm down, Damon. He didn't mean it.
No, I can't. Calm down, David. I can't walk past that. That is disgusting.
I mean, you know what I mean. He's been there forever. How much of the loyalty to him? But I don't know.
The reality is the Diamondbacks could still probably call up Jordan Lawlar and not even do anything with Nick Ahmed if they wanted to, right? They just got an extra position player spot, which I know they used on Pavin Smith. They also brought in Emmanuel Rivera at the same time. There is some room to maneuver here on the roster if they wanted to. I would be pretty surprised. I mean, he's under contract through next season. I don't think you're going to send down Jace Peterson, but yeah, I mean, the reality is the Diamondbacks could call up Jordan Lawlar and not really lose anything in theory. They could maintain his rookie status for next year. That's just based off of days on the active roster, which wouldn't be an issue, as well as at bats, which the D-backs could control. I think even if you started basically every game the rest of the way at the major league level, I still think he would be fine from an at-bats perspective to keep his rookie eligibility for next year. With a guy, a top 10 prospect in the sport with an OPS over 1,000 in AAA right now at 21 years old, doing what he's doing, an offense that, as we talked about earlier, needs a spark desperately. This is something that, frankly, I don't understand. In my mind, it is a pretty clear, and this is still acknowledging that Jordan Lawlar might come up and he might struggle, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like Jordan Lawlar, he had a 1050 OPS in AAAs. It's going to be a 950 OPS in the majors. That's not how this works.
That's absolutely how it works.
But, oh my gosh. But for where this Diamondbacks offense is and the guys that they're relying on the left side of the infield right now, you got to take a shot in my mind. You just got to take a shot. And to this point, they haven't been willing to do that. And I question if they will be the rest of the way.
And how often have we seen guys get called up and just because pitchers have never seen them before, just have a couple of good games, a couple of good weeks, off rip.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of prospects that those for Ellie De La Cruz when he's first called up.
Only has a couple of weeks. Even if he's dog shit, if he's giving you 2 good weeks, That's the difference between you making the playoffs and not making the playoffs potentially.
Yeah.
So
when
like
you have your back against the wall,
you got to try it. I feel
you
like.
have to try it,
especially when you're struggling offensively.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest areas where you're lacking production is Nick Ahmed in the shortstop.
Because I mean, if you put this kid in Nick Ahmed's spot today, and your end of the lineup is him sandwiched between Reno and Corbin Carroll, that just feels a lot different.
Yeah.
And again, he brought up the Reds, like the youth movement, the energy that brought through the whole team.
Yeah.
This team could really use that right now.
Piece of Yoshi says Mets just called up Mauricio. That's Ronnie Mauricio, and he's injected life into them the same way we saw.
Look at the Yankees.
Ellie De La Cruz get that.
They were literally just talking about this on Sunday Night Baseball. Like the Yankees and the Mets have both over the course of like a week has gone from complete despair to there being like this whole new reason to show up to the ballpark. And obviously we just had a whole conversation about that. And like, again, this is very different. People might not necessarily know as much about this kid as they would Jason Dominguez, but like for so many reasons, just from an on the field and off the field, like it could be a complete just shot in the arm for the organization at a time when they very desperately need it, because it's worked for other organizations who are in much worse spots than the Diamondbacks were.
By the way, just for you in the chat that's talking about Dominic Fletcher, he's on the 60-day IL now with a fractured left index finger. So.
Yeah, he's done for the year at this point.
I think the big thing there is that in order to get Jordan Lawlar on the
playoff
playoff roster, the Diamondbacks would just have to have an injury, which that
Yeah,
definitely could
apparently
occur.
that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Which it amazes me how many loopholes there are with some of these.
There's loopholes.
These roster shenanigans in baseball, but yeah, it appears that if they brought up Lawlar at any point this month, they could still get him on their playoff roster if they were to make it there.
Well, hopefully we will see that happen with the Arizona Diamondbacks, because at this point we need something.
Have y'all seen Jason Dominguez, by the way? Like just what he's been doing? He's pretty good.
Yeah.
It makes me very upset.
Very good. I'm upset about a lot of things, especially on a night like tonight. But one thing that I will say is that Illegal Pete's always gets me through it. No matter how angry Shawn and I are at each other, we go there, we share a margarita.
This is I'm not angry at you, Derek.
I am furious with you, but I was just using this as
he holds grudges, Shawn. You'll learn
this.
This
is only
time.
the beginning. I want to talk about this for weeks, buddy. Again, Illegal Pete's the
Tomorrow's
place to go.
show is round 2, right?
Yeah.
we're live again in 12, 14 hours.
I don't know. I don't fucking care. I'll muster up something else to be mad at him about. But Illegal Pete's, it's the place to get over your grudges, basically. Irresistible drinks, mouth-watering food, and of course a full bar with custom cocktails and beers, piping hot queso, everything else you need. Most importantly, Illegal Pete's margarita is the strongest in Arizona. So make sure to check out Illegal Pete's. It's your go-to spot this summer. Stop by for happy hour, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day at all 12 locations. Illegal Pete's, the place for burritos, buddies, and beers for 28 years. Also, shout out to Saturday Neon. I'm looking at this U of A sign that absolutely disgusts me, but it's not because of the fine craftsmanship from Saturday Neon. That has to do, once again, with another grudge I have with that school down south. But if you are from that school or any school that Saturday Neon makes an officially licensed neon sign for, can check them out. Make sure to grab it. Damon's trying to plug it in right now. That's just going to upset me even more. I swear to God. Everybody on this goddamn show is out.
He's got a U of A education. It's taking him a minute.
Yeah, it's going to take him a while. So I'm not worried. You're right. But Saturday Neon was a company started by two smart people, unlike Damon, who are former college rounders that make officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs. They also know how to plug them in.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, he figured it out. And
it's not
gross.
Hey, that's not on Saturday Neon. Very straightforward.
It's very beautiful. Even with that logo up
lights,
there.
Hey, you could put anything in bright neon lights. I'm gonna be about it.
He's right.
What a logo! Great colors.
Great
logo.
Sign.
It's a
pretty good colors.
It's a mid-A logo.
I'm pro red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
But
no, you're not.
What do you mean by that?
It's a great company. They know what universities to sponsor, and they know which ones not to.
They do. They do officially license 19 select schools, and unfortunately, the best Arizona school is not one of them yet, but soon will be coming, hopefully. But Saturday Neon signs are made with high quality materials and are backed by a 2-year warranty. So, of course, make sure check them out over at SaturdayNeon.com. You can use code PHNX for 10% off your order. Free shipping for all orders over $200. Well, that's all we got, guys. This has gone
Are
on
we?
for
Are we
way
sure?
too long.
Are we? I mean, at this point,
what do we
how
got?
long has
What
the
do
show
we
been
got?
going?
90 minutes. We got
Yeah,
90
No,
minutes.
Shawn.
we completely
What?
obliterated
Oh,
our
yeah.
previous
Listen,
longest show record.
I genuinely had no clue what was going on.
It's
that long.
all your fault.
No, it is.
It's absolutely all your fault. But that's
I
fine.
will live with this because, like, when this happened on ASU shows, it was usually because I was ranting about art or something. This was relevant and not brought up by me, so I can live with this.
I don't know what part about that was it on you, but
I didn't
don't
bring
know.
up the conversation.
What Jesse did. It's Jesse's
Yeah,
fault.
I didn't bring up the topic.
You know what? Screw you, Jesse. God damn it.
And it was relevant.
You can follow us all on Twitter, and you can tell Shawn he was right all you want. It's not going to impact me at all. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. This man is at Shawn_DePause. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. The maniac behind the Mac, he is Damon. And of
he
course,
is the sanest person in this
he
room
is.
right now. Let's be
He
real
really
here.
is. We are all Damon's dogs.
He's the only sane person in this room right now.
Damon is at Damon DAWG at the end. But of course, our show's at PHNX D-backs, and all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by and sticking with us tonight. We appreciate your time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you don't start fights with your co-hosts.